Today I'm down in North Carolina at my mom's house by myself taking a course, which I'll share a little bit with all of you later because it sort of ties into the talk. And I was chuckling, thinking, um, in the beginning of some documentaries or something, they say, the scenes you're about to see may not be reflective of what the station believes in or whatever. And I start chuckling because I know Sharon always talks about past lives. We don't know. But I'm going to share a little bit about my thoughts today and some of the experiences that I've been having. And I love that song, Leslie, that you just played because she said it several times. Pilgrim, it's a long way to find out who you are. And so in this journey and this year of COVID, um, it's been a wonderful journey. Hard to believe, but for me, it's been really an interesting journey of challenges, which I'm going to get into a little bit, but really so much of finding out who I am and who we all are in the bigger picture. It's been a great way to look within and spend time with myself. But I started to think about today, of course, many of us come from many religions and different modalities. And I started thinking about the word resurrection. And I went through many resurrections. And when I looked it up, it said revitalization or a revival or a condition. And of course, we also use those synonyms of rebirth, renewal. And when we study the major religions, and I've done a lot of that in my life because I've always been on that hunt to try to find something greater than me and to put, wrap my head around all the whys. Why are we here and why are we doing this? And when I looked at things like you look at Muhammad, who brought the understanding to Islam, and he brought Islam, saying he brought them from this polytheistic society, polytheistic society to a monotheistic society. And then I look at Moses and I think about the Passover and the forgiveness and love that was brought to us through the example of Passover in Judaism. And then I started thinking about Buddhism, of course, and bringing enlightenment to everyone, which is attained, I believe, like through their morality and meditation and their wisdom teachings. And then, of course, Jesus, who taught, a God of forgiveness and brought so much more love to Christianity. But each of those religions and each of those people brought a resurrection or a renewal and a new belief pattern and thought, which has really impacted the world greatly. And there's so many others who I was thinking about who really have brought rebirth and renewal. And, we can throw out so many names. We can think of Gandhi, of course, and Mother Teresa, and people like Doris Day and Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, even Edgar Casey and the Dalai Lama. And and the list goes on, and also even the most beautiful people in my life from my spiritual center, um, and all the people who have touched my life. But this past year, it really has been like no other year in our modern days and our modern history. And we have faced challenges and highs and lows that we will be forever changed. And I think sometimes when I think about the future and what we will say is like so many really milestone years, this will be such a memorable year that you will all remember where you were this year. If you asked me what I was doing in 1998 or 2006, I would really stutter through that for you. But when I look back, we can say, where were you at 9/11? And for some of you who are old enough, where were you when Kennedy was shot? You can remember those things and you will remember those days. And I think for many of us, we will remember the year 2020 and what we were doing or not doing, sequestered in our homes, trying to protect each other from this invisible virus. Um, so when I started thinking about this year and the challenges that it brought, it also brought me to a very new place on my journey in this life. And for some of you who are at the center, you know, when I've gotten up and talked, I'll talk a little bit about my life. So I'll kind of quickly go over that so that you have a frame of reference of where I'm at. But I came here from the Midwest. I was from Ohio and Illinois, and we moved to New Jersey when I was still quite young, but I was really in for a culture shock. I came from outdoor barbecues and people everywhere being super nice and friendly. And when I came to my town, the people were not so friendly, and it was really the kids that were really tough. And I never realized this was going to be the beginning of my challenges in being in a different area and learning to be accepted for who I was or not being accepted. And I think all of us have gone through that in our lives at some point in time. No matter how good and kind you are, you have faced challenges where people don't understand you, and prejudices can fill the world in so many awkward ways. And where does prejudice come from but through fear and not understanding someone? And so I learned that lesson very early with the cruelty of children. And we always know there's two ways you can go. You can become a bully yourself to stop that from happening to you, or you can take the road to say, I will never do that to someone else because I know how much it hurts and I will never want to inflict that pain on someone. And fortunately, I chose the latter. I definitely have not become a bully in my life. Um, but one of the greatest things that that time brought me in my early days was that I started becoming very introspective. And when we are facing challenges, we become introspective. And I started talking to God more and more and taking long walks in the woods near me and really spending time by myself that I would never have done if I had a ton of friends. But I was really unhappy in that time, and I kept talking to God, and I asked God to put me on a spiritual path. And at about the age of 12, I remember in tears just getting down on my knees and saying, this life really, I'm going to just say it, it sucks. It really is tough. And I was miserable. And I just said, I do not want to be here. I don't get it. I don't understand it. There's too much pain in this world. And I don't know how to put the boundaries up to protect myself. But with that, I asked God one thing. I said, please show me the reason for this journey, and please put spiritual people in my path to teach me, because I don't want to just go through this life thinking you go to school, maybe you get married, maybe you have children, maybe you become a grandparent, and then you die. And I thought, it's not a great pattern for me. I said, there's got to be more. There has to be more. And how do we find your love here? Because I'm not feeling it. And so I grew up in an Episcopal church and always still wanting more. It was a beautiful religion in itself, but it still left me wanting. So I went through high school and I found some friends who had gone through difficult times and became born again Christians. So I said, oh, here's a place you can express yourself in your religion. And I enjoyed it for a while, but I also found that it didn't quite mesh with my view of God, because I really believe that God is a God of love and God is not a God of judgment. And I started finding more judgment in the groups that I was within, that I was in. And I finally dropped away from it. And I continued on in my search looking, and I went on through my career, starting acting and modeling in New York City and finding some bits of happiness. But one day, Spirit stepped in and said, and I heard it plain as day, you don't need people to know your name or your face in order to be a success in this life. Because I knew I wasn't fully happy in the theater world. I needed to give back more. And so I dropped out and I became a nurse and I went into medicine and I worked in New York City for quite a while. And I met my husband who was Catholic, and back came up my prejudices that I didn't know I had, because again, it was the fear of the unknown. And so I threw myself into the Catholic religion trying to figure it out, to say I have to understand this this church more and why they do what they do. And in the end, I found it was really a beautiful place filled with beautiful people. And in the end, I also divorced a Catholic, but it was my journey to make me look at myself and understand where my thoughts really were. Um, and I was able to bring my thoughts to the Catholic Church. And in my teaching, I started teaching adults and students. And I started teaching about the God of love that I knew existed and still does all around us. And ultimately, when I got divorced, I started getting more experiences in nursing with patients who had had out of body experiences. And the metaphysical world was becoming more and more prevalent. And the New Age movement was becoming more well known. And I started reading every book I could on out of body experiences. And that took me on my journey from one place to the next, looking for yoga, meditation, Buddhism, looking at the Eastern religions, just really finding my world was opening up and finding love and God's love in so many of these places. And of course, in time, it brought me to the spiritualist church, where I really believe I have found my people, my beautiful people in this life, that I have really found it is the closest place to agape love on this earth, that I have found the most beautiful, loving people that accept you for who you are, where your background is. It doesn't matter what religion you are. We all just know that we're searching to find the reality of God in our lives, and we do it through mediumship, oftentimes, and many other areas. So, through the spiritualist journey, um, I thank God I had this community of people, um, during this time of COVID, because I tend to work a lot. And this year, I'm now a scientist. I work in pharmaceuticals in the area of safety and oncology. And I've had more work sometimes than I can handle. But I also found that it wasn't enough. And it's interesting with God, is because I know when I am starting to hear I need to do something different, I need to find other modalities, I start getting that nagging feeling in my head. And it starts out gently and then it usually gets louder. And so, in this time of COVID, when the walls are kind of closing in, and I'm watching the world and this level of, and should I say, insanity that struck my heart so deeply, where we've seen such highs and lows. We see people losing their jobs, and but then other people coming forward with food kitchens and bringing things to people's doors and trying to help out in so many ways. But I still knew I needed to give back more. And so, as crazy as it sounds, I started hearing there is going to be a next stage to your life. And as I jokingly say, I always need the sledgehammer of the universe. And so I'm one to do a lot of reading and a lot of studying. And so I started finding things in Gaia.com, which I know some of you have heard me talk about in the past. And in this area, it's the spiritual Netflix. And with Gaia, I found Dolores Cannon. And Dolores Cannon, I'll tell you, when you look her up, and I know Leslie's going to put up her little website on our chat room. I think it's simply dolorescannon.com, but she'll put it up there. Um, she looks like your grandmother. She looks like a Midwestern grandma that you would, if you fell over her in an airport, you would never have noticed her. But this woman really changed the world in so many ways. And Dolores' method of what she brought this thing called QHHT, called quantum healing hypnotherapy technique. And Dolores started out, to give her just a little bit of her background, she started out in the late 60s, early 70s, and she was a very young woman with her husband. He was a Navy man traveling around the world, and his side thing was hypnosis. So people would come to them with stress, anxiety, trying to lose weight, stop smoking, and they would help people, putting them under hypnosis. So at one point, this doctor on the base sent this woman to her husband Johnny and said, "Could you please put this woman under hypnosis and see if you can help her? She has many medical issues. She's very heavy. She smokes. She's having problems with her kidneys, and she has anxiety eating, and I can't help her anymore." And so with that, when they put her under hypnosis, she actually surprised them greatly. And back in the early 70s, when there was no metaphysics, there was no New Age movement, they brought her back into a past life. And she was actually a flapper in the 20s. And they were so shocked and amazed, they really didn't know what they were doing. And little did they realize they were blazing new trails. And with that, they kind of just went with the flow of it. And they brought her back ultimately to several different lives, and ultimately bringing her back to source energy, which is God. And with that, they learned so much from this woman, forever changing her life and forever changing their lives. Her husband ended up having a very severe car accident that was a head-on collision with a drunk driver, and he ended up being a paraplegic, and he was in the hospital for over a year. And with that, they stopped their hypnotherapy. He retired with honorable discharge from the Navy, and they retired to Arkansas in a small farm, raising their children. And once her children were raised, Dolores felt a calling to go back to hypnotherapy. It suited her well. She found ways to give back. And she started hypnotizing as many people as she could and perfecting her technique and bringing back people to past lives, other dimensions, not just past lives, but truly other dimensions, bringing them back close to source and bringing people to spontaneous healings of many different illnesses. And her world changed, and she really changed the world of many. It came to the point where she was traveling all around the world, teaching and performing this QHHT, this quantum healing hypnotherapy technique. And by doing this, she brought us closer to God. And after a while, she had a 4-year-long waiting list to get to her. We think it's a long time getting to Bill Collar and to Richard, when it takes a year sometimes to see them, or 6 months. But she really had a strong calling to do this. She ultimately ended up being called on by MUFON, which is the UFO Society, helping people that had lost time, seeing if they truly were having experiences. And that took her to even another level of hypnotherapy. In the end of her life, and she passed in 2014, she had written 19 books. And I encourage any of you who think that you might have an interest in this. She wrote books. Her first book was 5 Lives Remembered, with this woman that was the flapper and then went back to source. And later on, she wrote books called The Convoluted Universe. She spoke to Nostradamus and she ended up translating all his quatrains, um, which many scholars have tried to do over the years, and she did it in 3 books. But she also wrote a book, Between Life and Death, and to tell you what happens between life and death. And they're all interesting. So whatever you feel called to read, even myself, I use audible.com. I sometimes listen to my books in the car or when I'm taking walks. Um, so I encourage you to look her up and get a feeling that if this is what is something that would interest you, to please check her out. She actually couldn't get her books published initially, so she put together a publishing company called Ozark Publishing. And with Ozark, they have all her books and other books by other people, or you can order them on Amazon. But I think the one thing is that Dolores brought me and to many, many people is that she taught these things that you are greater than you know. You are connected to source energy, even though you've forgotten it. And when you feel that you're sequestered in your homes and that you're not contributing and yet you want to make a difference, all we need to know is that everything is energy. It's all vibrational. Your thoughts, your feelings are energy. This energy begins with you, and you can truly make a difference even if you are with 4 walls around you. You can raise your vibrational energy simply by thinking thoughts of beauty and love from your heart. And, we always we talk through this at meditation or through prayer, but you can raise that vibrational energy, and you can make a choice to take that positive vibrational energy, and you can truly make a difference. And making new programs, you can do this yourself. I hope you can hear me because I'm seeing that my thing here is a little unstable on
You
my.
froze up a couple of times,
Did
but I
I?
think you got, yep, yeah, I
Did
think
we
we got
get
you
it?
back.
Okay, sorry.
Got
I
you
got
back.
a little message that I was frozen. But anyway, and I apologize for that. I'm down in the bowels of beautiful North Carolina. um, but I encourage you when you get up every day to think of a thought of love. And we often talk about gratitude journals and things, but even when you open your eyes, first think of yourself and think about the love you have for yourself. And we've been brought up in systems and religions that we are supposed to put ourselves last. But I encourage you to put yourself first, because just as much as there's different levels of love, there's different levels of selfishness. And there is a good selfishness that helps you set boundaries and helps you to recharge and regroup. And when you focus on the love that's within you, you have the resources to give to other people. When we talk about self love, and I think I've shared this once a while ago, but I remember Teal Swan, who is another very spiritual person that I've studied and had a lot of wonderful advice. And one of the things she did was she said, if you can't feel as though you love yourself, because many of us have gone through very difficult childhoods or very difficult moments in our lives, that what you can do is take a glass of water and put that water in front of you and just meditate for 5 or 10 minutes on that water and send loving energy to that water. And just think positive thoughts about the beautiful water and how much you love it. And then after you're done, 5 or 10 minutes later, drink the water and drink all of it. And what you will be doing is you will be thinking and drinking those positive thoughts of love and energy. She had gone through a very difficult point in her life, in a very horrendous childhood, she couldn't sit back and love herself. She couldn't look in the mirror and say, "You're beautiful," or "I love you." And when she started to do this exercise over the course of a couple weeks, she finally could turn back and see the beauty of God within her. But it took her time. So I think sometimes when we set up expectations for ourselves also, sometimes they're just a little too high. And I've been down here in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and I have an amazing friend down here who is just a very beautiful woman. And she runs a store called the Mystic Jewel, and she has found a beautiful way to give back. And when I come down to visit her, I just sort of sit off to the side, and when it's slow, we have time to talk and catch up. And when it's busy, then I just step back and I watch her interact with the people that come in to buy her beautiful pieces of jewelry that are all healing stones. She doesn't sell diamonds or things like that. She sells amethyst and tourmaline and rose quartz that are embedded in these beautiful pieces of jewelry. And she really taught me that through her actions, she really is sending energy out to people. And I watch her with her clients of all those little bits of love, like every person who comes in to buy some small piece of jewelry. I say, you know what? They're not really buying the jewelry. They're coming here to experiencing your love because of the vibrational energy that you send out when you're selling people these small little things that they're leaving with. And she has so many other interests. She's a vibrational drummer, she's a yoga teacher, she's a Reiki master. She's also a mother. She supports her husband and provides jobs for the community, but she does it in such a loving way. And this last week when have been down talking with her, it was such an interesting thing because I could see she felt very spent. She felt like she'd been giving out so much, and she felt a little disheartened of all the demands that were on her. And she finally said, you know, if I can't be doing Reiki all of the time, or yoga, teaching yoga, or drumming to the quality that I want to, I don't want to do this. And it hit me watching her with the people that came into the store leaving with so much more than a piece of jewelry. They left with love and acceptance and kindness, that I said to her, if you can only do yoga once 1 hour a month, if you can only drum 1 or 2 hours a month, if you can only give Reiki to one person a week or a month, you have given more of yourself in those moments, and those people will be forever changed by that. Even if you don't see it, they will be. So keep doing what you're doing and don't think it has to be all or nothing. And I think that's what COVID has taught us, that it isn't all or nothing. Your all can be one soft, gentle, loving thought, one vibrational energy, one small prayer. And that can come from you, and you can begin to change the world by bringing up that vibration. In my practice that I've started, because I've been studying Dolores Cannon's QHHT, I really am amazed by the people who go into trance and start teaching me. And it is beyond amazing. And it is such a beautiful segue from working mediumistically and working with psychic work and Reiki healing and hands-on healing from our center, that I watch people change through this process. I'm going and having, and if you have a chance, I encourage you, there are practitioners for QHHT all around the world, and more are coming every day because it's a beautiful, loving modality that will provide you with your reason why you're here. You can learn this. You can learn from your higher self because that's what you tap into in this trance mode. And I wanted to share a person that I had put under. And again, it's not me who does it. I'm really just a facilitator. It really is spirit and it is source energy. Um, but when you go into trance and then you go possibly to a past life or to a different dimension and you learn something and you are taught from what your higher self wants you to know, I then bring you back into yourself to connect with your higher self, your oversoul that knows all of your past lives, all of why you are here, and gives you the answers to the questions that you may have. And I have a friend of mine who is very spiritual, and I know he's a very evolved soul. And when he went under, and we got to the point of asking what was his purpose, why was he here, and we were talking to his higher self, the answer amazed me. And when I said, why is he here and what is his purpose in this life? The answer was so deep and so profound. It said, his higher self said, it's not about the why, it's about the how. How do you present yourself in this journey, in this incarnation you've chosen? It's not about why you're here. You're here to learn and you're here for the lessons. And we can talk about those lessons, but it really is how you present yourself. And that's where it brought me back to the vibrational energy. Even the smallest prayer, the smallest kind and loving thought that you have will bring you to this place of how you present yourself. And Source calls you to do that. Present yourself with love, and you will watch the magic happen in your life. I know Sharon often talks about, she's quoted this, and I love this, that you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. And that was by Winnie the Pooh. And I found another version of that statement that said, be strong enough to stand alone. You are stronger than you seem, and you are smarter than you think, and you are brave enough to ask for it. And Leslie has this poem that I found, and I want to close out by sharing this with you, and I'm going to have her put it up. But I really found something that was just so special here. So as you look at yourself, it's called Be Good to You. Be good to you. Be yourself truthfully. Accept yourself gratefully. Value yourself joyfully. Forgive yourself completely. Treat yourself generously. Balance yourself harmoniously. Bless yourself abundantly. Trust yourself confidently. Love yourself wholeheartedly. Empower yourself immediately. Give yourself enthusiastically and express yourself radiantly. I encourage you all to have an amazing Easter and a wonderful blessing in the weeks ahead as we come out of COVID and maybe still face it a little longer. But look for the graciousness in you because you are all amazing, amazing beings here. And you've chosen this journey. You are all love. You are all from Source, and you are never alone. I thank you all.